Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is Wednesday, which means I get to spend some time with my friend and co-host, Dr. Jeff Golini, in just a moment, as we start to talk about some research that is actually, it's fairly old research, but it's coming back around. And it may be the reason why we're seeing some of the anomalies out there in people who do long-term keto diets. Could it actually cause your pancreas to fail over time? We'll talk about that in a minute. And then later in the show, we're going to be joined by Adam Lamb from RenewLifeRx.com to talk about a study that was just published that showed that testosterone therapy improved mortality in men with type 2 diabetes without changing cardiovascular risk factors, which is really an interesting phenomenon. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show and why more doctors should consider testosterone for their male patients who have type 2 diabetes. But before we get started, we have to pay homage and thank All-American Pharmaceutical and EFX Sports for being our title sponsor. And right now you can get 6 of their top-selling products absolutely free. If you go to superhumanradio.net and click one of the EFX banner ads, you'll pay $5 and change for shipping, but that's all you'll pay. And the reason for that is that Dr. Jeff believes that nobody should have to buy a product and pay for it before they try it. No one should have to buy a product without trying it. And he puts his money where his mouth is, and he gives you the chance to try his products first. And if you've never taken advantage of this offer, what are you waiting for? We're talking about some amazing products, a creatine product, protein powders, pre-workout. The list goes on and on. The only effective designer carbohydrate supplement on the market today, Carbolin, used by all the pros, used by football players, by bodybuilders, everybody. Try this stuff. See for yourself. If it doesn't work, you're not out really anything except the $5 in shipping. But if it does work, think about it. You'll want more. And that's the reason he does what he does. Check it out. We'll be right. We're going to start now with our theme music.
This is Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Golini.
How you doing, Dr. Jeff? Welcome back from Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah, recovering from the Olympia. Boy, it was one crazy weekend. Thanks to all the fans that came out. I enjoyed seeing you all, taking pictures, and we had a good time.
It is exhausting, isn't it?
It was. I started at about 6 in the morning, and I literally each night finished at 1 o'clock a.m. It was long.
Yeah, long. And it's just it's literally a sea of people. It's like all you see is crowds of thronging rows of people moving from aisle to aisle. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It is, and then sometimes people don't realize then we have all our meetings, with our international distributors and customers. So, we're meeting before the show, we're meeting after the show, and then we have, staff meetings because it's a good time with everybody in town. So it's quite busy. I actually lost my voice on the way back. I talk so much.
Wow. Well, I know you had fun. I saw on Facebook, I saw on Instagram, lots of pictures, people taking pictures with you. It looked like it was a lot of fun.
We had a blast.
So I've talked on this show over the past year to try to add some logic and some balance to the notion about the ketogenic diet. And what I've come away with is what Dr. Mauro Di Pasquale promoted in his anabolic diet, and that's a cyclical keto diet. You don't do it forever. But there are people out there who promote this as the optimal human diet, and I have said no, it's not, over and over again. We've done shows to support that, and now this is an addition to that. Once again, we see that if you decide you're going to do keto for the long haul, it actually could turn out to hurt your pancreas, huh?
It is, and I mean, since the beginning of this, and I'll go back to the Atkin days, I have not wavered from my viewpoint. And so many people go, oh, you're trying to push your philosophies. And I actually did a show a couple weeks ago about the ketogenic. If you're going to do it, let me tell you how to do it right. And a lot of the keto people got mad because they have their own opinion. Everybody has their own hybrid opinion of how to do it. And I'm going, look, if you're going to do it, it's not an all-time thing. lowering your carbohydrates is not a new philosophy, but you don't want to take in low amounts of protein if you're an athlete and then do this for a long-term time. And then here comes this study from the Journal of Diabetes in 1999 that just kind of validates what we've been saying.
And some people are going to hear that and go, oh, 1999. But these studies were done, so they didn't have to be done again. So you're not going to see this study. But this is what we build research on. And this study was really impressive because what it found was that there was when you go long-term keto, we know this already, that peripheral insulin resistance occurs in the ketogenic state because the body wants to keep the muscles from using glucose and spares it for the brain to use. And so we already know that when you're in ketosis, you are peripherally insulin resistant. But this goes even further, right?
It does. And, again, going back to biology 101, the naiveness of, a lot of keto people is what hinders their progress, because they think that by not eating carbohydrates, they have zero glucose. Well, fatty acids, your brain needs glucose. It only runs on glucose. So when your liver is processing these fatty acids, it produces ketones, and guess what? It produces sugar. Your blood glucose level is still at a safe level. Your blood glucose isn't zero. So, their whole mind frame is really bad. But again, when you look at, what insulin does and you start to hinder that, I mean, let's face it, some of the deaths in our industry over the last couple of years is because they've been messing with insulin. Very, very dangerous.
So let's explore this a little bit further. Here's the phenomenon that happens on a long-term keto diet, right? So not cyclical. If you're doing keto and then you're carbing up on the weekends, or you're doing keto during the week and you're carbing up on the weekends, and you're eating sensibly, you're not doing the 90% fat, 10% combined protein and carbohydrates idiocy that some people are promoting out there for average people. The only people that should be doing that are people who are fighting cancer, or their doctor told them that it's for their epilepsy. That's it.
Right.
If you don't have those two qualifiers, then you shouldn't be doing it. You should be doing a high protein version of keto because you want muscle growth. You want to recover from your workouts. But with that being said, what they discovered, and this is not me. This is actually from Wendy Lou Jones, who does some work for Dr. Jeff. So these are not my words. These are hers. She says the paper goes on to state that intercellular fat in the muscle is the reason for the promotion of type 2 diabetes, because all of the fat interferes with the enzymatic gate that allows glucose into the muscle cell for energy. Eventually, the pancreas burns out from overproduction of insulin, and the immune system starts to destroy the beta islet cells. Now blood sugar goes up without anything to control it. So what we're seeing in this particular study, and it was a very well-done study, they saw that by putting these, I guess they did this on rodents, I want to say, right? It doesn't say that if this was people or rodents, but I'm pretty sure it had to be rodents.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, what they saw was that by putting them on this high-fat, low-carb diet for very long periods of time, the infiltration of fat in both the liver and muscle, which is a hallmark of insulin resistance, occurred, and also that infiltration made it harder for glucose that needed to get in to get in. This is supported by the peripheral insulin resistance that has been known since 2012 now on a high-fat diet. We see this because the body wants to save glucose for the brain. So what they're saying is when it does it long-term, you still are acting like a diabetic, but for a different reason. Your body has to produce more and more insulin to get the glucose into the muscle, and eventually it burns out.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it's really common sense. And, the study goes on to say that, this is going to initiate type 2 diabetes. So you could think that you're doing something healthy, avoiding carbohydrates that people say cause type 2 diabetes, which is completely false. And this, particular program over time. Now, I want to make something clear, like you said. We're not saying that, you do keto for a day, or two, a week, and, you're going to have problems. We're talking on a long term, because keto takes about 3 days to even kick in. So if you do it for 1 or 2 days, it's absolutely worthless.
Right.
Other than, you shocked your metabolism by lowering your carbohydrates for a few days. And that's what we used to do when we bodybuilded, is we shocked our metabolisms using carbohydrate intake,
Alternating it, right? Exactly.
Yep.
So now let's look at this from a standpoint of what we see in the keto community today. So there are people in the keto community that are quite obese.
Right.
And these people don't look healthy, but they keep charging on and saying that keto is good, keto is good, keto is good. And it's kind of like that old story that we heard in third grade about the king and his no clothes, but his subjects didn't want to say anything because they felt bad because they loved him so much. Yep. But the king said, "How do you like my new outfit?" And he was naked. And everybody went, "Oh, we love it." But behind his back, they're going, "He has no clothes on." And that's really what's going on with a lot of these quote unquote keto gurus today, who you look at them and you can tell they just don't look healthy. They seem not to be able to lose weight, or even worse, they admit that if they eat any kind of carbs now, their blood sugar goes through the roof. And that is exactly this phenomenon that is being pointed out in this study that Wendy Lou Jones sent to us. And that is the fact that then you become carbohydrate intolerant. There's so many people out there who will say, "Oh, I'm carbohydrate intolerant." Yeah, you've probably been doing keto too long. The answer to it is if your pancreas hasn't been attacked by your immune system yet, what the answer to this is to slowly start backing down your fat and start adding some sensible carbs. Nothing highly glycemic and starchy, but maybe even some good vegetables, some tubers, legumes, but make sure they're organic because they're one of the heavily sprayed glyphosate crops out there. You need to start easing your pancreas back into working again. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. But, also, the nutrients that you are losing, from eating carbohydrates are crucial to our body's function. You can't shut down one thing and expect everything to work the same.
And that, on that note, this is something I've been saying recently more often. If you're on a diet that requires you to supplement, like, okay, vegans, they know they have to supplement with B12. They have to supplement with what's the antithesis to copper? I forget what it is, but there's a mineral that they have to supplement with because they get very, very high copper from their diet, and so they have to supplement with zinc. Thank you. Because they don't get enough zinc from their diet. You get a lot of zinc from animal protein, from shellfish, from beef and pork and stuff like that, which they don't get. And there are other nutrients that they don't get in their diet. The same thing is now being seen in the keto community. So you have keto gurus saying, "Oh, the reason for the keto flu is because you're not getting the minerals in your diet, so you have to supplement with magnesium and potassium and sodium." Anytime you hear somebody say, "This is the optimal human diet," and then they tell you, "Oh, but you have to supplement," that means it's not the optimal human diet, because that means that through evolution, we didn't have GNC and Vitamin Shop. We wouldn't have been able to supplement. We just would have died of malnutrition.
So Wendy Jones is my director of clinical trials. She's a very, very intelligent lady, has a master's. So she's listening, and she just sent me 2 more studies. She goes, "Here are 2 more articles on the subject of fat inside the muscle cell and insulin resistance. It is very obvious from the data in these papers that the keto diet is trouble." And one is called Mechanism of Fatty Acid-Induced Insulin Resistance in Humans. So this was a human trial from the Junior Chemical Journal, 1999. And then the second one was a similar study that was done in 2000. So,
yeah, again, if we look at ourselves, when we look at things from an evolutionary perspective, and we've done this show, we did this show with Joel Green. We talked about the probability of our ancestors finding themselves in ketosis, and we looked at 13 different hunter-gatherer tribes that still exist today, and the probability, the rate of them eating in such a way that they would find themselves in ketosis outside of outright starvation. When food is available to them, they're never in ketosis. Now, if food is not available, of course, that's the backup plan for the body. The body goes, oh, we'll make ketones until we can find food. But from an evolutionary perspective, the only time we were in ketosis long term was because we were getting ready to die. We were starving and we needed food badly. And so when you look at this from an evolutionary perspective, the vegan diet is probably a good diet to do for a month. You know what I mean? Like, you just shock your body. Clean yourself out. Give yourself a chance to reestablish some mechanisms in your body that maybe you've lost from the way you've been eating. The same is true for the keto diet. It should be cyclical. You shouldn't be in ketosis all the time, because we also talked about the epigenetic dietary inheritances with Joel Green. If you and your girlfriend are like keto warriors and you're always in ketosis and she gets pregnant, there's a high probability that your baby's going to be born with all those thrifty genes, because the baby is being created in a time where the body thinks the environment is hostile. So we have to make this baby as efficient as possible to make fat. Your baby is going to end up being born with a propensity to metabolic disorder. Think about that for a second. That, we keep saying food is medicine, but then we don't think about it. Oh, yeah, food is medicine. You don't overdose on aspirin, and you don't do something forever. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Carl, I mean, come on. Most people who hype the keto diet have said, well, that way I don't have to exercise.
Oh, is that what they're saying?
Give me
Seriously?
a break. Oh, I hear that so much. Now, not from bodybuilders, but, again, the bodybuilders, they lie because they all eat carbs. We're talking about a contest diet now.
Right.
Which, again, nobody does this because you're not going to go low protein. You're going to have no muscle left. Your body will burn the muscle for energy. It needs sugar for the brain.
Right.
So you don't have enough protein, you're going to be burning muscle. But most of them are lazy. They don't want to exercise. The cure to all things, forget about, eat whatever you want, exercise, and you are way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Get off the couch.
But I would even go further than, I think that you were very generous with your statement. I think the people that are really driving the keto market are the people who are making money in it. They're selling books.
They are.
They're selling supplements. That's who's driving the keto market. If you look at this whole, it's no different than paleo was. But although I think paleo is a much better way to eat, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is all profit driven. That's what this is. Otherwise, people wouldn't be so. People are selling, they're part of an MLM, they're selling ketone salts, and they're promoting I'm in ketosis, I got my keto sticks, I'm 3 millimoles today. You know what? That's just all silliness. I've said it before, if your diet provides you with a membership card and an annual cruise, you're eating that way for the wrong reason. If you make money selling your diet to other people, you're eating that way for the wrong reason. You really are.
And I was going to say, I want to talk about, what is the overall goal of dieting? It's about health and longevity. So maybe we can come back.
Yes, that's a great transition. That's a fantastic transition. Let's get the silly out of our heads and start talking sensibility. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Instinctively, Dr. J sees what we need to discuss next. Why do we eat the way we... No, well, think about it, right? People don't even think about why they eat the way they... Uh-oh. What was that? Uh-oh. Dr. J, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. There's a big hum.
I'm going to have to hang up and call you right back. Sit tight, everybody. Sit tight. This is going to be real fast. Here we go. Okay. There we go. And this is the beauty of live radio. This is why nobody wants to do live radio. I am the only one who does live radio today because I'm not afraid of it. You there?
Not enough carbohydrates.
Yeah, the phone system didn't have enough carbohydrates. Okay, let me kill the other
Yeah, it was low.
Yeah, that's so funny. So, but I mean, really, instinctively, you're like, why are we even talking about this? Do people even think about why they are eating the way they eat in the first place?
You said something which was crucial. It's because somebody's always selling something. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, and how many of these, and I'm going to call them fads, have you seen come and go? And people get on the bandwagon, people lose, people gain back, and then they're on to the next thing, but they spend a lot of money. Everybody is wanting your money, When we do this show, do we say, hey, send us a contribution of $25 because we're giving you a bunch of information in our opinion?
Heck, you've given away books that have valuable information that you have used to become a professional bodybuilder, reduce body fat down to single digits, build massive muscle. You've given away free books.
It's about education. It's about giving people the right information. Like when I started this show here, I said, I did a show not recently on the EFX Sports, or recently, about if you're going to do keto, let me tell you how to do it right. And, oh, boy, did I get flack from people going, I thought you didn't like keto. And I'm like, no, I never said I didn't like keto. I said I'm not a fan of it. And I give you the reason why I'm not a fan of it. And this is one of them, is because people go crazy. And the majority of the people, like you said, they do not look healthy if they are really doing this on a long-term basis. Most of them have a slight yellow tint. And I'm sorry, that's a sign of jaundice.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
But, it's about being healthy. It's about, go back to the Jack LaLanne days. I mean, the secret is not very difficult. Eating a balanced diet, proportions, and exercise.
Well, I think one of the things that is occurring today, and this is just like from a 30,000-foot view,
right.
Hippocrates was the first person to coin the term hypochondriac, and the word loosely means from below the rib cage. And he classified people who had these symptoms, but nobody could actually put their fingers on where this was coming from. But they just had a general sense of malaise. They didn't feel good. They didn't sleep well. And he called them hypochondriacs. That word turned into becoming something that we use to ridicule people. But its original meaning, it meant that this was something like, I couldn't point at a broken arm or a boil
right.
on your face, but you definitely, something's wrong with you, but I just don't know. I think it's kind of coming from in this area here below the rib cage, which is where the gut and the intestines are, right? And now fast forward to today. 76% of Americans have a gut problem today. That's astonishing to me. And most of it is from small intestine, either fungi or overgrowth of microbes that shouldn't be there in the first place. And so, like we just did a show the other day on lactic acid producing microbes. They infest the small intestine. People end up with D-lactic acid instead of L, and the D is the one that gives them brain fog and joint pain and all that sort of stuff. So the reason I point this out is I think that today most people are not eating diets for the reason that you did and Jack LaLanne did. They're eating them because they don't feel well, and they're trying to figure out how to fix themselves. And so when you're trying to look at a diet as a therapy, you go really, really way far to the left or really, really way far to the right, because in the middle seems not to be helping.
It isn't, and don't jump on everything you see. I mean, what's that Dr. Oz? I mean, how every time he would say something, people would go buy what he'd said, and they'd have a cabinet full. Next week it's this. Week before it was something else for the same thing. You got to find, your food regimen. Your body likes consistency. You should be eating the same things all the time. I hear people go, "Oh, I'm so bored of chicken." What? How can you get bored of chicken? Cook it a different way.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, you're so right, because when I start to connect the dots between people who have good lifespan and health span, they are consistent. They are regimented. If they drink a beer, they drink one beer at the same time every day. If they smoke cigars, they smoke one cigar. The predictability, it tells the body life is good, low stress.
It is, yeah. And when your body is craving something, that's a signal. It's just like your car. When your oil light goes on, you had better do something about it. When you're craving sugar or candy, your body's basically saying, I need carbohydrates, and your brain's going, well, this is the quickest way to replenish, is eat some candy. But again, a little bit of meal planning. When you're craving a steak, you need something in that red meat. You know, maybe you're deficient in iron or protein. So again, be balanced, be healthy, and don't do all these stupid fad things.
Hey, real quick, Dr. J, some really exciting news you just told me before the show started. So everybody knows about the Willy Wonka golden ticket promotion, that there's golden tickets and quite a few products out there, and some of them are worth $1,000, and you're telling me that they're still sitting on store shelves.
I am shocked. It has been 2 months now. There are $5,000 worth of golden tickets out there. There are 10 of them that were in the large, between the large bottles, and then we have a bunch of the small bottles that are absolutely free. You can go to EFXsports.com and get a 330-gram golden ticket Carbolin absolutely free. And there are random tickets. But no, not one ticket has been redeemed, which tells me that they're sitting on store shelves because over half of the inventory is now gone.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just like, and we took a bunch to the show this weekend and we sold everything. So I'm hoping that, one guy right at the show said, I'm opening mine to see if I got a golden ticket. Unfortunately,
that's funny.
I was hoping he did, but he didn't. And they, like I said, they're completely random. So nobody here knows where they are. I don't even know because I hid them. And they are mixed in a sequence of pallets so that they randomly go out in series, But so they're out there.
So keep buying your Carbolin, folks, because
Carbolin Raspberry Lemonade, 4.5 pound. We call it the Golden Ticket Limited Edition. It's a great flavor. It's a big old bottle, and somebody sooner or later is going to win some money.
Dr. J with the sensibility. All right, man. Talk to you soon, brother.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, we're going to take one quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have Adam Lamb on. We're going to talk about a recent study that showed that testosterone therapy in type 2 diabetic men improved their mortality. And this is without changing cardiovascular risk factors. This is really interesting. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So last night before bed, I absorbed the book, Your Brain at Work. Really great book. Today, I just downloaded Power, Sex, Suicide, which is the book that reveals the incredible role of the mitochondria and how it affected evolution and complex life forms. How do I get all this information in my brain so quickly? It's called Blinkist. If you haven't heard me talk about it before, you haven't been listening to the show. Blinkist is the most amazing app in the world for people who want to learn things, but just don't have a lot of time to listen to it on Audible over the course of 13 hours or read the book. Blinkist takes books and distills them down to the most important content and delivers them to you in what they call blinks. And in 15 minutes, you can absorb all the important stuff in a book and hold a conversation with somebody who invested 13 hours in reading it. If you go to Blinkist.com/superhuman, you'll get a 7-day free trial. I'm getting emails from people saying this is the greatest thing in the world, and it is. I love Blinkist because it allows me to learn more faster. If I'm in the car, if I'm getting ready to go to sleep, if I'm doing cardio, if you travel and commute on a bus or a train, you can absorb 3 or 4 books in the time it takes to get to work. I mean, just imagine how your knowledge will build so rapidly. Blinkist is the coolest app I've ever seen. Blinkist, Blinkist.com/superhuman. Don't waste another minute. Download it today. Check it out. All right, so now we are joined by Adam Lamb. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing great. Good to be back, Carl. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. And you're back, and we have a really interesting study to kind of talk about here a little bit, because there's still a lot of mainstream physicians out there who treat their patients who have type 2 diabetes, but refuse to consider testosterone therapy for those men. They'll put them on a series of other drugs. They'll put them on, glucose disposal drugs. They'll put them on
metformin or something.
Yeah. They'll put them on all this other stuff. When we're starting to learn that putting them on testosterone actually could improve their insulin resistance. But this particular study the title of the study was Long-Term Testosterone Therapy in Type 2 Diabetes is Associated with Reduced Mortality Without Improvement in Conventional Cardiovascular Risk Factors. This is phenomenal. These guys were living longer, but the traditional markers that doctors look for were unaffected. And this was a multi-centric study done in the UK and also in the United States. And I mean, were you shocked when you saw this?
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's something that hit home to me because diabetes is also something I'm very passionate about. Type 2, especially because it can be improved. My grandfather had type 2 diabetes, what led to his death at an earlier age, and actually having a company that helps diabetics. So this, and also tied to, personally, I've seen clients in the HRT space, their A1C levels improve, better quality of lifestyle, things like that, more likely to continue with, exercise and things like that because they're seeing results and things like that with the TRT. And then this, when I got to read through this, it was made sense, but even more kind of mind-blowing as far as the health roles that it can play for folks with type 2 diabetes.
Well, even the men, so they followed these men for a very long time. It was 857 men over the course of 3.8 years of follow-up. And even the men who discontinued their testosterone therapy throughout the 3.8 year follow-up still fared better than the guys who weren't given testosterone therapy, which means that the effects that were conferred during the time that they were using actually continued to affect them later on.
Yeah, I think that part was probably one of the most interesting parts about it, meaning that even doing testosterone therapy and taking time off could still be beneficial for those folks than not doing it all. And
then the other thing that I thought was really intriguing about the study was guys like me and guys that are in their 40s and 50s or even maybe in their early 60s, they'll get on testosterone. But once you get past a certain age, guys are afraid to get on testosterone because they think, and their doctors will tell them, you're too old for testosterone. You've missed the boat. These guys were all greater than 64.6 years old. That was the average. Most of these guys were in their 70s, and they were on testosterone. And they fared better than guys who didn't. And, it's time for doctors to stop scaring men away from testosterone replacement therapy just because they have their own personal biases. It has to stop.
I think it's their biases, but it's also fear. There's a lot of doctors that they have fear in conversations or protocols that they're unexperienced with, and also there's a lot of conflicting information out there. I see it all the time with clients that come to me with information. I'm like, where the heck did you get that? That's not true. That's not how it works. That's not what the results show. And so I think even doctors at the same time. I think I told you recently I had a client who came over and he went back to his doctor and he wasn't on an anti-estrogen. His estrogen is high, and his doctor pulled his phone out, pulled up Google, and said, "What to do with high estrogen?" And he said that's when I knew there was a time to probably look further into treatment.
Yeah.
So I think as they become more educated, studies like this come out, but getting it out to that mainstream doctor group and understanding how important it is, A, and B, how to prescribe it properly to get those results and probably even get better results than the study showed.
And now one thing that was clear from the study, even with testosterone therapy, the men who had what was considered more normal body weights fared better. So, and the reason I want to bring this up is because I've been saying for years on this show that if you're on testosterone therapy, it doesn't mean that you can lead a more reckless life, because the testosterone is not going to save you from really bad life choices and diet and lack of movement. It's not going to, a lot of people think, oh, I'll get on testosterone and I'll just eat and crap because I used to do that in my 20s, so I'll be able to do it now in my 60s. No, you still got to take care of yourself. So the guys who were on testosterone replacement therapy, who were had more average BMIs for their size, they fared better than the guys that were on testosterone therapy who were considered overweight. But the guys who were considered overweight did better than the guys who had low test.
Right, and it just shows that the factor of the testosterone therapy was helpful. And you brought up a great point too, where I think going back to where some of the doctors I think have some fear is the statement of testosterone replacement therapy can be high risk for cardiovascular disease. And the reality is anything done improperly can lead to improper results, right? Or results that are unwanted. And so with that being said, that when, I have guys that come over to the clinic that maybe they were somewhere else for a couple of years and their blood work's screwed up, right? Their blood pressure's a little higher than it should be. Their cholesterol is a little goofy. And we go through all that stuff. And first thing is we want to get them healthy first, right? So those clients will attest to it. We have them go through a certain protocol that gets them healthy first. And then they go on TRT and they do it properly. And those risk factors go down. So when it's done properly, I think you and I are probably of the same belief that anybody with low testosterone that has those symptoms that's looking to be healthier, that wants to kind of take that step, should be on testosterone replacement therapy because it's going to help you do it. And if you are not seeing the results, the testosterone replacement therapy, getting your hormones correct, can help you see those results, right? And so if you have the drive and you have the motivation to go to the gym and you just feel better and you have just more confidence, all those kind of things, you're more likely to exercise. You're more likely, and one thing I know in the diabetes space, like I said, I have a supplement company that helps that group, is that exercise and movement is the most important thing for type 2 diabetics, right? And so we're actually coming out with a program for those folks to just look at quote unquote at home, just to stay active, really is what the program's called, and just showing them like just doing a little walk, doing some little calisthenics at the house, just to get the heart rate up, just to move it.
Right.
To do that can help. You don't have to go to the gym for 3 hours a day, right? You can take 30 minutes if you don't do anything, and it's going to improve significantly.
I want to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about this, but then I also want you to share with some of the people about some of the things that you have available for people who have type 2 diabetes. But I want to mention to the audience that if you are reluctant to go and talk to your doctor because you just have that gut feeling that your doctor is not going to be receptive, maybe you've asked him before and he said, hey, your testosterone's fine, you don't need to check it. We have an answer here at the Superhuman Nation, and it's renewliferx.com. And you can get 20% off your initial consultation and lab work if you use the code SHR. And that's where you can start. You'll be talking to people who are receptive, who understand this category of medicine and are not afraid of it, and will help you. So if you feel like when we're talking about this, you're thinking about your doctor, yourself, you sitting in his office and saying, hey, I'm interested in testosterone therapy, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, man, yeah, I don't think I want to have that conversation with him, then give renewliferx.com a try and let them know that you are there from Superhuman Radio. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back. A lot of the fear that, let's just call them, for lack of better terms, mainstream doctors have about testosterone therapy was from 2 studies that were done about 5 years ago, maybe 6, that showed really bad outcomes. And that's what launched the legal industry.
Class action stuff.
Yeah. But here's the interesting thing about that. Do you hear about those class action lawsuits anymore? No. You know why? Because nobody came forth. Look, class action lawsuits only work if you have a big throng of people coming forth and going, yeah, that happened to me. None of that stuff happened to people that were on testosterone. So the testosterone class action lawsuits just went away because there was nobody jumping on that. In fact, if you looked at the threads of responses, people were calling BS. This is nonsense. This is a scam. Go away. The testosterone changed my life. I read them. I remember reading them.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was something that there was a couple conversations. People bring it up and they have those concerns about testosterone replacement therapy. And I think that what comes down to confidence in the process and the care with what we do, especially like we've seen thousands of clients. If clients have been with me for almost 10 years, and they're healthier now than they were then, right? Almost like every single one of them. Because if they're not, we force them to make change. things like that. And so when you do it right, and you pay attention to everything, not just testosterone. I think we mentioned that one time, last time I was on the call. We can give you a 1 cc of testosterone, and I know your testosterone is going to go up. But what's everything else doing, right? And so that's one of the key things about, we tell our clients that you get to kind of be in charge as far as your goals and what you want to achieve, and if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, things like that, as long as you're healthy and you're responsible. And people like that because it's not typically how they're treated in the medical industry. And we have different clients with different goals. Some people just want to feel good. Some people are, they're in their 40s, they're doing CrossFit 6 days a week, right? They've got to recover. They're going to need some other things to do that. And our job is to make sure they're healthy.
The other thing I want to mention about those studies real quick is that those were not well-done studies. And I've talked about them. When I had my TV show, I talked about them on this show here. Those studies, they didn't track to see how many men actually got the prescriptions filled. The men were given prescriptions, and that qualified them to be in the study. And then they had heart attacks at a point in time during the study, and they said, oh, testosterone. When they dug deeper, they found that some of these guys, over the course of 2 years, had 2 prescriptions filled. Think about that. 2 prescriptions over the course of 2 years. So that means that out of 24 months, they used it 2 months. They're not on testosterone therapy. The other study, which did look at their usage, didn't qualify how their activity had changed. Something that you said a little while ago that I've talked about on this show about testosterone. Testosterone makes you feel good. So you're this guy, and for the past, 30 years, you've been sitting on the sofa, and then you get testosterone, you're like, damn, I feel great. I know, I'm going to go jog. Wait a minute. You haven't even walked in 30 years, but you feel great. And your brain's telling you, hey, when we used to feel like this, we used to be able to do this stuff here. And you go, oh, I'm going to go do it. And you drop dead. So these guys, they were having heart attacks because they were having sex. Interestingly enough, the testosterone, the number of cardiovascular events that happened in that testosterone group mimicked the number of cardiovascular events that happened in the Viagra group when Viagra was first introduced. And why is that? You got unhealthy guys. All of a sudden, they're like, I want to have sex for the next 3 hours. Well,
they feel 25 and they're trying to act like that.
You can't do that, bro. You're going to have a heart attack. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's testosterone or Viagra at that point in time.
I think it really goes, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it really goes into proper care. Checking clients. So we, based on one thing we look at too is your blood pressure. If your blood pressure is over a certain area, we won't let you do injections. You have to do cream. Cream is less likely to disrupt that. And another example, I had a guy that just came over this week who was on testosterone therapy for the last 2 years with his doctor, and he was getting 1 cc, so 200 milligrams of testosterone every 2 weeks, and which is you might as well not do it because that's it's not even that it's not enough. It's like drinking and not getting the buzz and only getting the hangover because he would feel good for 3 or 4 days because the doctor was under the belief that testosterone cypionate is a longer acting ester. But we did his blood work on the day, 10 days in. So 4 days before he was supposed to get his next shot, his LH and FSH levels, which is the natural testosterone kind of functioning in your body, were totally shut down. His cholesterol was elevated. And most importantly, his testosterone was at like 181. If you're on testosterone therapy and your testosterone's at 181, like those are the guys that are coming over to us. We almost consider the emergency clients, right? Like the 300, 400 range, 200 range. That's our average client that comes over that just kind of has the symptoms. But the guys that are in that under 200 range, that's almost an emergency, especially this guy's like 36 years old, right? And because he was on improper therapy, it actually put him in a worse position 80% of the time.
Yes, it's going to put him at risk of a heart attack now, right?
Right. He's getting the health risk. Oh, his hemoglobin, hematocrit were high. And that's one of the things people don't understand is that if it's not done properly, you're going to get bad results. And if it's done properly, like we've been perfecting our methods and the things we look at for almost 10 years with the doctors I've worked with, myself personally, managing these clients, talking to the clients, hearing about their life, hearing about their activity, knowing, I have the clients I know that they do shit. They still smoke. They still go drink a few nights a week. I know their lifestyle. And so based on their lifestyle, we also adjust how their testosterone therapy is going to look like. We also adjust the things we're going to look at as opposed to the guy who's has that. You know, and there's also things that people don't forget about, and this is I think hopefully there's maybe one person listening to this that can take this away. There is hereditary cardiovascular diseases that can cause heart attacks. They call it the widowmaker, and off the top of my head, I can't think of the medical term for it. But we've had clients that just through conversations have found that out for them and said, hey, man, you need to go out and get a mug scan of your heart and those kind of things. Just do it, because my dad died at 50, my uncle died at 48. Like, dude, you might be next. And it could, you know, that's where some testosterone therapy, heart attacks could be together, because while he was on testosterone therapy, he also had a history of heart disease. So helping people uncover that stuff, it can be a lifesaver, because you don't know if it exists.
I mean, you just reminded me of something. Both of those studies that everybody thought testosterone was harmful, those studies, the one of the prerequisites for entry into the study groups was you had to have had at least what do they call that when they look in your heart, an angioplasty, all these guys had heart problems. In other words, they all had heart problems. You know, it's almost like saying, let's see how these sneakers work. We're going to grade these sneakers to see how effective they are, but we only want guys who've had broken feet or broken ankles in the group.
Or plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, and everybody's going, oh, my feet hurt, and then you go, oh yeah, see, the sneakers suck.
Right, and that's just something like we talk about with the testosterone replacement therapy. It's a lifestyle elevation thing, right? It's just, you and I totally get it. You feel better, you can look better, you can perform better, and all that stuff. But if you live a lifestyle that you don't really care about those things, you know, and I tell clients, like, listen, if you're the guy who sits on the couch and drinks 6 beers every night, drinks pop all day, eats pizza 3 times a week, I won't even take them on as clients, because they need some different kind of intervention. You know what I mean? That's going to help them with testosterone therapy. Otherwise, they're just putting themselves potentially at higher risk, unless they're going to get up and move. You know, like, hey, I found a trainer, they're doing my nutrition, all that stuff. Awesome. I'm going to help you out. We're going to help make sure you get results quick, stay motivated. But if you haven't made the decision to be healthier and you're just looking for a pill or a shot to do it, you know, common sense just says it's higher risk.
Right. Talk about the. I didn't know that you had a line of products that are targeting people with type 2 diabetes. So that's why the diabetes thing hit home a little bit. Like I said, my grandfather had type 2 diabetes, and he passed away because of that. But a friend of mine reached out to me a few years ago. He's a type 1 diabetic, and he's like, hey, man, I know you're real knowledgeable in the health space and in supplements and things like that. I want to launch a supplement company. It's called Size Slim. And we have a weight loss support product, which is geared towards type 2, because at the time he was in the medical space working with gastric bypass surgery. And he's like, dude, what can we do to help all these people that are crazily overweight? That's not going to, you know, a lot of the fat burner supplements, things like that, just they're too risky for them to take. So it's an all natural supplement we started with. It's vegan, gluten free. It's no stimulants. It's all, it curbs appetite. It works. It's awesome. You know, we see a lot of results with that. So what's in it? What's some of the main ingredients?
Yeah. I'll whip through it. So it's got, you know, things like B1, riboflavin, B12, methylcobalamin too. So it's the better one. Pantheanic acid, chromium. The chromium really helps with balancing blood sugar, which is one of the biggest problems with type 2 diabetes. In fact,
it was so effective at one point in time that it became a weight loss supplement. I don't know if people aren't old enough to know this, but probably about 20 years ago, chromium picolinate was like all the rage because people were taking it and they were losing weight. And the reason they were losing weight is because it improved insulin sensitivity.
Yep. And so that's a strong ingredient in here. We use things like yerba mate, garcinia is in there, tyrosine, methylene, raspberry ketones, green tea leaf extract, alpha-lipoic acid, L-carnitine. There's 17 different ingredients in here. And so the goal with it was to help lose weight, you know, boost metabolism, curb appetite, and just help you have energy and feel better. You know, and that was kind of like the main focus of it. It's something like my mom could take, right? At the time I used the reference of like shreds, right? Like I wouldn't give my mom something called shreds and she's not going to take it, right? She's going to be scared, or something like incinerator or something like that.
Yeah,
so
right.
We want to create something that would be healthy for that community. And also in doing so, my business partner, Matt, he's a college baseball player, played baseball as a pitcher at U of M. So he's athletic. He's an avid tennis player. But he was in conversation. He was like, hey, dude, those pre-workouts and stuff like that you take? And he's like, man, I've never taken that. I've been scared to take it because he's type 1 diabetic. He was like, I don't know what the hell happens. The ingredients that are in it. And I said, well, dude, why don't we make a product that's safe enough for diabetics to take, which means anyone can take it, and kind of do it. We kind of had we call it the old man mentality, meaning not the 21 and invincible type stuff. There's some stuff out there that, some friends of mine own some supplement companies that just I wouldn't take because it scares me. Right. So we created we have a pre-workout and a recovery mix, and the pre-workout's 200 milligrams of caffeine, low dose, and it's more, but it's all natural flavor, natural sweetener, so it doesn't taste like Skittles or something like that. the kids I say might be used to, and it's stevia based, so it doesn't. You can take it and it doesn't spike your insulin. People understand artificial sweetener will spike your insulin. You know what I mean? And so there's different things like that. There's no sugar in it, stuff like that. So both the pre-workout and recovery are totally safe for diabetics to take. So the thought process was, if you're type 2 diabetic, we have a product that can help you. If you're type 2 diabetic and deciding to get more active and want to see results and just, take it to a different level, the pre-workout and the recovery are good for you. It's literally the only pre-workout and recovery I ever take anymore because I love it. Works. It's like just perfect, right? It's never too much, and all that kind of stuff. So we started that company with a passion to help diabetics, and it's really been taken off.
Where can my audience find this if they have a diabetic mom or dad they want to try this with? Yeah,
so you can go to SciSlim.com and buy it there. It's also on Amazon. So it's called SciSlim Weight Loss Support. We have a couple other products come out too for just strictly for blood glucose support, and we're also going to go into a product that's going to help with neuropathy pain because we know that that's a thing too. And we are coming out too with a 90-day program for folks to go through just some meal stuff. Like that's one of the biggest things we've seen too with type 2 diabetics is lack of education. Guys like us, I mean, you have a radio called Superhuman Radio, right? You get the lifestyle, but there's a lot of people, the lack of education is sad.
I know.
It's scary. And we live in this like health and fitness bubble.
Well, when you and I go out to functions with friends and you hear somebody go, oh, I've heard about this new thing. And it's like something that you've known about for a decade. But it takes a decade for them to hear about it because it takes a decade for it to get to Dr. Oz or to Today's Show. And you realize all of a sudden there's this vast delay of the dissemination of information when it comes to nutrition, especially nutrition. In America today, you have a small core group of people who are early adopters. They learn it, they use it, and they're the ones that look great. They're the ones that feel great. But when you're in a party, you're the minority at that party, and all your friends are complaining about this and about that, and you're like, and you want to open your mouth, but they're not going to get it. And then somebody says, oh, I just heard that, cinnamon is good for controlling blood sugar. It's like, oh, that's a weak one, but yeah, you're right. That's been known for like 20 years.
And that's
now,
that's one of the ingredients that's in there. But there's just conversation where just people don't understand that they're drinking, highly saturated fats, high sugar. They're drinking a 2 liter of pop a day, right? Like, who the hell drinks a 2 liter?
I know, right?
And it's sad. It hurts. Like when I see these guys like you'll see some guys walking, like going to work, and they're walking out of the gas station with 2 Big Slam Mountain Dews or whatever in their hand, and I'm like, dude, you're going to drink that much sugar today? Just drink that. Who knows what the hell they're eating for lunch? Because they're eating they're eating a bag of chips from the gas station with a hot dog, and like that's how they live. And they I used to
be that guy, Adam. I used to drive, and I would see like a convenience store, and I would go in and get those rolling cancer sticks on the covered with cheese dogs. They had cheese in them.
Cheese
I get 3. They were only like 69. Oh, I get 4 of them. I get those, and and then I would get a giant soda, a Mr. Pibb. That used to be me. I used to do that, man. I know what that feels like.
Yeah, and so you understand the mentality behind those people, and I'm very sympathetic to that because that's how I grew up with a family where everyone was overweight. That's what drove me into the health industry, is seeing the suffering of my mom being overweight, everything from confidence to lifestyle, things she couldn't do, the depression, and like I said, my grandfather who practically raised me, who died of diabetes, had health problems, all related to it. But he just had to have that sugar, and I don't think he understood it. And that's what triggered me when I was young to dive into this health and nutrition and fitness, and by the time I got into my 20s, into the hormones and things like that, because I wanted to know it all, because I wanted to help people, because I realized that there's some neglect, right? There's some just ignorance in the sense of, I know it's right, but I don't care.
Right.
But there's also just a lot of people that don't know. And the part that I'm most passionate about is kids, because they don't have a choice, and they sure don't.
Yes, the parents.
And they're just eating
right.
whatever mom and dad are putting in front of them. Dude, my son, like, 'cause my wife and I were competing, my son grew up eating egg whites and oatmeal for breakfast. That's his favorite thing to eat. They still like their candy, and they're still kids. We're not nuts about that stuff. I'll still let him have if we're out somewhere, he wants a little mini lemonade or something like that. Sure, but it's in moderation. We're conscious of it. I think the most important thing that leads to all of this stuff is self-awareness, right? Just being aware of what you're eating, when you're eating. I haven't been to the gym in a while, and my sugar intake's been a little high, and I should change. I need to make next week a little different, right? Or I was on vacation, so I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to Greece here shortly, and I'm probably not going to work out as much, and I'm going to be eating great meals and things like that. We will be doing some physical activity. But, you'll be aware of that, so that too many people aren't aware. They're in a routine that's unhealthy, that puts them at high risk. And whether they decide to do testosterone replacement therapy, or they decide, like, I'm going to start jogging tomorrow, it could put them at high risk because they've been in a unhealthy place for so long.
Right, exactly. And that's why I say there's a responsibility that comes with this. And I say this even to drug using athletes. A lot of young guys think, oh, well, I'm on this cycle, I'm on that cycle, so I can stay out late tonight, I can drink all I want because I'm still going to get my gains, And not only are they not going to get their gains, but they're actually going to make themselves sick, they're going to injure themselves. And I've said this for years, like, if you're going to get on HRT, you have a responsibility to make sure that you're going to do everything else right. And if you're going to be on gear, you have a responsibility to make sure that you're going to do everything else right. Otherwise, don't even bother. Why even bother?
Yeah, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And you're wasting your health. I used to make fun of some of my buddies I called the weekend warriors, that these guys would run gear for 10 years and they look the same, because they would work out Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday, and then they'd party and, stretch their medium T-shirt out at the bar over the weekend, and then they just keep doing the same cycle. And I'm like, and then when they were not taking gear, they weren't even exercising at all. They barely go to the gym because they're like, what's the point? I'm like, well, it's a lifestyle. It's not, you're not just doing, if you're just doing stuff to, like, get big and be cool and intimidating at the bar, you're
doing it for the wrong reason.
We need to have a psychological conversation instead of a physical conversation about things like that.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it just comes with age. In my 20s, I was probably in that same bucket too.
If you're listening to this show and you're intrigued by the discussion about testosterone therapy, and maybe you feel like, man, I got to see what this is like. I've heard so many good things about it. It changed my life. I've used the analogy 1,000 times now that, it was like somebody turned the lights back on in my life. It made everything possible again. It made me want to court again. It made me want to do things again. It made me less grumpy. If you're a grumpy guy, if you're one of those people that you feel like the light has gone out in your life, there's just really nothing left, it's just a slow burn till the end now, you need to have your testosterone levels tested. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to your doctor about it, I get it. You can easily get the discussion going over at the website. When Renew. No, I want to tell people that it's a 20% off coupon. Initial consultation and lab work if you use the code SHR, and go to the website renewliferx.com. Get the,
Carl, one thing.
Yeah, good.
If they just tell us they came from you, we've had a couple guys come over that said they heard us in the show, and we've been able to help them and find some solutions because they weren't getting the best care. And one thing that we say that maybe will stick in their head as kind of our motto is, if you're not testing, you're guessing, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the truth, whether you're taking gear, you're a competitive athlete. We talk to those guys and say, hey, man, let us look at your blood work and just tell you, like, you're at high risk or you're not. I'm not going to be your mom. I'm not your mom. I'm not going to tell you, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. Don't put, we're not going to do that. We want everybody to be healthy. And so if we can offer, you pay a few $100s to find out that you may be avoiding a serious health issue in the next 18 to 24 months, that's worth it, right? Because you'll spend the money on the protein and the supplements and the gym membership and the gear. Take a look at what's going on inside, and if you're looking for some experts that are really interested and really focused and have a ton of experience in taking you through the path of exploring hormone replacement therapy, we're the company. We're the guys. You're going to work with regular guys like me who understand it and doctors who understand the protocols that are going to put you on the right program.
There you go. Don't waste any more time. All right, that's it for today. Let's also thank Dr. Jeff Golini for the first half hour, Science for Humans. And, of course, Adam Lamb, the RenewLifeRx.com is a sponsor of Superhuman Radio. Show them some love. Check them out. Even if you are on hormones now, if you think you're not getting the fair shake, you should. There's more to it than just testosterone. Guys are not, everybody likes to say, oh, well, women are complex. Well, no, men are too. If you're treating a man correctly, he's complex as well. So check him out. And we'll see you about it tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thank you for listening today.